I am 38 years old and married to Sarah, 36, for 12 years. We met during our sophomore year at State University, where I was studying computer science and she was majoring in marketing. It was a typical college romance, with late-night study sessions, turning into in-depth conversations about our goals and aspirations, weekend dates exploring the city, and the excitement of first love. Sarah was always the more gregarious of the two of us. She had a way of lighting up a room with her smile and making everyone feel at ease. I, on the other hand, was more reserved and focused on my studies, but somehow we were perfectly balanced. She helped me come out of my shell, and I was able to ground her when she needed it. After graduation, I landed an entry-level job at a promising tech startup, but the hours were long, and 5 years into my career, I was promoted to a senior management position. The increased salary allowed us to buy our dream home, a beautiful, 3-bedroom house in a quiet suburb. We discussed starting a family, but we decided to wait until my career was more established. Sarah was incredibly supportive during this time. She took on various part-time jobs to help make ends meet while I focused on building my career. As the years went by, late nights at the office became the norm, and weekends were often spent catching up on work or attending networking events. Sarah was always there to support me and manage our home life, and she never complained about the long hours I was putting in. Of the company, it was a dream come true, the culmination of years of sacrifice and hard work. Sarah threw a surprise party to celebrate, inviting all of our friends and family. I remember looking at her that night, feeling like the luckiest man alive. But as I reached the pinnacle of my career, I noticed changes in Sarah. The bright spark in her eyes seemed to dim, and her usual enthusiastic support of my accomplishments became more subdued. One evening over dinner, she had barely touched her food, and she admitted that, although she was proud of my success, she felt like she had lost herself in supporting my dreams. "I love you," she said, "but I need something for myself. I want to join the workforce to pursue my own ambitions." I was surprised but supportive. I had always thought Sarah was a capable and intelligent woman, and I thought she would thrive in a professional setting. Position at my company, thinking it would be a good starting point for her career. Sarah was initially hesitant, worried about nepotism and wanting to prove herself on her own merits, but after more discussion, we decided that it would be a good opportunity for her to get her foot in the door. I made it clear to the HR department that Sarah should be treated like any other employee and not given special treatment because of our relationship. Sarah began as an entry-level marketing assistant about 2 years ago, and she threw herself into the role with enthusiasm. She worked hard to learn the ropes, and quickly became known for her creativity and attention to detail. I made sure to keep our work relationship professional, treating Sarah like any other employee when we were in the office. Within a year, Sarah had proven herself to be an invaluable member of the marketing team, and she was promoted too. For a while, everything seemed to be going well. We were both successful in our careers, and our relationship felt stronger than ever. We would frequently discuss our work over dinner, exchanging ideas and celebrating each other's accomplishments. However, about 6 months ago, Sarah started staying late at the office more frequently, citing important projects and deadlines. At first, I didn't think much of it because I knew how demanding work could be, and I was glad to see her so dedicated to her job. However, as the weeks passed, I noticed other changes. Sarah became more distant and distracted at home, constantly on her phone, guarding it closely and angling the screen away from me when I was nearby when I asked her about her day. My suspicions increased when I overheard a phone conversation. One evening, while Sarah was in our home office talking in hushed tones, I heard her giggling and using pet names I had never heard before. When I walked in the door, she abruptly ended the call and said it was a work-related conversation with a colleague. I tried to deny my suspicions, telling myself I was being paranoid, but last month I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right, so I decided to do some research. I knew it wasn't the most moral thing to do, but I felt I had no choice. So I asked a trusted friend in the IT department to covertly check Sarah's work emails. I hated violating her privacy, but I needed to know the truth. And what my friend discovered confirmed my worst fears. There were numerous flirtatious exchanges between for the past few months. Sarah and her married coworker, Mark Millions, had been working closely on a project, and their emails had gradually changed from professional to personal and to overtly romantic. I was devastated, but I chose to remain silent and get more information. I hired a private investigator to follow Sarah and Mark, and the reports were devastating. Sarah and Mark had been meeting twice a week at a hotel close to the office for the past 3 months, and the PI provided photographic proof of them entering and leaving the hotel together, appearing intimate and at ease. What's worse, though, was that Sarah had been meeting with a divorce lawyer, and she was going to serve me with divorce papers on my upcoming 39th birthday, which was in 2 weeks. Not only was she cheating on me, but she was also planning to blindside me with a divorce on my birthday. I was shocked, felt betrayed, angry, and deeply hurt. I couldn't believe that Sarah, who had always been there for me, could do this to me. After the initial shock subsided, I knew I had to act quickly because I couldn't let Sarah blindside me with divorce papers. I contacted a well-known divorce lawyer and began preparing my own divorce papers, making sure to document all the evidence of Sarah's affair and her private meetings with her lawyer. My lawyer assured me that with this evidence, Sarah wouldn't be entitled to much in the divorce settlement. I also began planning how to confront Sarah because I knew I couldn't just let her continue her affair and proceed with her plan to surprise me with divorce papers. I wanted her to experience the same level of shock and embarrassment that I had when I learned of her betrayal, so I thought it would be appropriate to confront her at my pre-birthday party at work. I knew it might seem harsh or even unprofessional, but I felt that she deserved it after what she had done, so I planned to expose her affair in front of our coworkers and serve her with divorce papers. Update 1. The pre-birthday party was yesterday, and things didn't go exactly as planned, but I believe I made my point. In the week before the party, I was extremely nervous, and I spent numerous hours reviewing the plan with my lawyer to make sure that all the paperwork was in order and that I had copies of all the evidence. We talked about the potential legal ramifications of my planned actions, and my lawyer gave me advice on how to proceed. The HR team prepared the necessary paperwork and was on standby for the party. On the day of the party, I felt a mixture of dread and determination. The office was decorated with balloons and streamers, and everyone thought it was just a normal office celebration for my birthday. Sarah arrived at the party looking nervous, and I now recognized the signs I had missed before, such as the way she avoided eye contact with me and the slight tremor in her hands as she accepted a glass of champagne. I also had a lengthy conversation with the head of our HR department about how to handle the termination of Sarah and Mark's employment. We agreed that their affair and misuse of company time and resources were grounds for immediate dismissal. Days before they served me divorce papers, I had no idea that I was going to turn the tables. The party was in full swing, with everyone chatting and enjoying the catered food. I called for everyone's attention, and they all turned to me. I took a deep breath and started speaking, trying to keep my voice steady before we continued with the festivities. I had an important announcement to make, so I stopped and looked around the room. Sarah was standing near the back looking confused, and I noticed that 2 of our employees had been having an inappropriate relationship that was against company policy. I continued, and the room grew quieter and more tense. I said to Sarah and Mark, looking directly at them, "You both know what I'm talking about. Your affair. Trust me, as a husband, but also as your CEO, you've used company time and resources to conduct your illicit relationship." Sarah's face was devoid of color, and Mark appeared to be about to pass out. As soon as I announced that you were both fired, the room erupted in gasps and whispers. Sarah took a step forward, opening her mouth to speak, but I stopped her with my hand, and my voice became quieter but still audible in the hushed room. "Sarah, I knew that you planned to serve me with divorce papers on my birthday, so I'm afraid I'm going to beat you to it." I walked over to where Sarah stood, frozen in shock, and took out an envelope containing the divorce papers my lawyer had prepared. "Happy early birthday to me," I said quietly, passing the envelope to her. Descended into chaos, Sarah broke down, in tears, crumpling to the floor with the envelope in her hands. Mark attempted to leave quickly, but security stopped him at the door. Other employees were talking loudly, some of them expressing shock, some disgust, and some defending Sarah and Mark. I stood there for a while, watching the scene unfold, and while I felt vindicated, I also felt hollow, realizing that this was really the end of my marriage. As the chaos continued, I quietly left the party, nodding to the HR representatives who would be handling the aftermath. I knew they would handle the situation professionally and make sure that all the correct procedures were followed in terminating Sarah and Mark's employment. When I got home, my phone was ringing nonstop with messages from coworkers, some of whom expressed support and others expressed disgust. Others chastised me for dealing with a personal matter in such a public way, and I received a few messages from people who said they had suspected something was going on between Sarah and Mark, but didn't want to get involved. Sarah didn't come home that night, so I sat alone in our house, the one we bought together with hopes of starting a family, and tried to process everything that had happened. I know some people might think I went too far by exposing them at the office party, but at that moment, I felt like I needed to regain some control over the situation. Sarah was planning to blindside me, and I couldn't let that happen. As I sit here writing this update, I can't help but wonder if there was a better way to handle it. Right now, I'll keep you updated on what happens next. The coming days and weeks will be difficult, but I'm determined to get through this and come out stronger. On the plus side, a week has passed since the party, and a lot has happened. The day after the party, Sarah came home to gather some of her belongings, and I was sitting in the living room when I heard her key in the lock. For a brief moment, the sound of her coming home filled me with joy, but now it only brought a sense of dread. Sarah walked in, her eyes red and puffy from crying. She looked as though she hadn't slept in days. Despite everything, a part of me wanted to console her, but I forced myself to resist the urge. "How could you do that to me?" she asked in her voice. "You've ruined my career?" I took a deep breath before answering the question. How could I do that to you? How could you cheat on me and plan to blindside me with divorce papers on my birthday? Sarah broke down, then collapsed onto the couch and sobbed in between sobs. She revealed everything, including the affair with Mark, the secret meetings with the divorce lawyer, and the plan to serve me papers on my birthday. She said, "You were always focused on your career when I started working at the company. Finally felt like I had a purpose. You were always focused on your career when I started working at the company." He made me feel valued and appreciated. I listened to her explanation, feeling a mixture of anger, hurt, and a slight sense of guilt, but I ignored that thought for the moment. The HR department has been working extra hours to manage the situation and avoid any potential lawsuits. Sarah and I talked for hours about our marriage, including the good times and the bad. However, we both knew that there was no turning back, because too much had been broken and too much trust had been lost. When Sarah left to live with her sister, taking a suitcase of clothes and personal belongings, we decided to communicate through our lawyers. From that point on, I felt a sense of finality that hadn't quite hit me before our marriage was truly over. The fallout at work has been significant. Many employees have expressed their support for me, praising me for taking a stand against workplace misconduct, but some feel that I handled it unprofessionally, arguing that I should have dealt with it privately rather than making a spectacle at a company event. A few days after the party, I received a startling email from Mark's wife, Jessica, who had learned about the affair and wanted to meet with me. We decided to meet at a quiet cafe away from the office, and after a few moments of silence, Jessica nodded and wiped away a tear. I suspected something was going on for a while, but I didn't want to believe it. When I confronted Mark after your party, he confessed to everything, and we spent the next hour talking about our experiences and the pain of betrayal. It was a difficult but cathartic conversation, and we both felt caught off guard by our spouses' actions. It was reassuring to know that someone else shared my experience when Jessica informed me that she had also filed for divorce. She said, "I can't trust him anymore, and I won't be second best in my own marriage before we parted." Jessica thanked me for exposing the affair. "It hurts, but I'd rather know the truth than live a lie." That conversation with Jessica was a turning point in my life because it made me realize that I needed help processing everything that had happened. The following day, I looked into therapists and found one who specialized in dealing with infidelity and divorce. I've had a few sessions since, and it's been really beneficial to have someone to talk to who can provide an unbiased viewpoint. My therapist has been helping me work through my feelings of betrayal and anger, as well as examining my own role in the breakdown of my marriage through therapy. Although Sarah's actions were unacceptable, I can see that our marriage had issues long before her affair started. I had been so focused on my career that I had neglected our relationship, which doesn't excuse what Sarah did, but it helps me understand how we got to this point. The divorce proceedings are proceeding, and Sarah's lawyer reached out to try to negotiate a settlement, but my lawyer advised me to stick to our original plan because, given the evidence of Sarah's affair and her attempt to blindside me with divorce papers, she isn't likely to receive much in the settlement. I'm trying to focus on my work and my mental health at the moment. It's been a difficult time, but I'm determined to get through it. I've started getting back in touch with old friends that I had lost touch with over the years, and I've even joined a support group for people going through divorce update 3. The divorce process is well underway, and as my lawyer predicted, Sarah doesn't have much of a case for a large settlement. The evidence of her affair and her plan to blindside me with divorce papers has worked in my favor, so she's likely to walk away with very little more than what she brought into the marriage. Sarah has been trying to portray herself as the victim, throughout this, telling friends and family that I was emotionally absent in our marriage and that she turned to Mark out of loneliness. Some people have believed her story, but the majority of our mutual friends have seen through it. I've had to deal with some backlash at work, as some employees felt that I abused my position as CEO by firing Sarah and Mark. After considering all the evidence and hearing my side of the story, the board of directors called a meeting to discuss the incident. Given the circumstances, but they advised me to handle any future personal matters more discreetly. Mark has been looking for a new job, but word of what happened has spread in our industry, and he's having trouble finding a position comparable to what he had at my company. On a personal note, I've been working through my feelings of anger and betrayal, and my therapist has also helped me see some of the ways I might have contributed to the breakdown of my marriage. While this doesn't excuse Sarah's actions, I've also begun to rekindle old hobbies that I had neglected over the years. I've joined a local hiking group and have been spending more time outdoors. It's been refreshing to focus on myself and my own interests for a change. Update 4 final. I'm providing my final update 6 months after my initial post. The divorce was finalized last week, and as anticipated, Sarah didn't receive much in the settlement. She left with her personal belongings and a small amount of alimony for a year to help her get back on her feet. From what I've heard, she is now working at a small marketing firm, and we haven't spoken directly since the divorce was finalized. Mark's life took a major turn for the worse. His wife divorced him and took primary custody of their children. He struggled to find employment in our industry and eventually had to move to a different state for a lower-paying position. Personally, I've continued with therapy and have made great strides in overcoming the trauma of Sarah's betrayal. I've learned a lot about myself and what I want in a relationship. I'm not ready to start dating yet, but I feel more confident about my future. I've kept up my new hobbies and even started volunteering at a local animal shelter. It's been fulfilling to focus on giving back to the community. Looking back, I don't regret exposing Sarah's affair at the office party. It may have been dramatic, but it gave me the opportunity to take charge of the story and shield myself from her planned ambush. I've learned the value of resolving relationship problems before they get out of hand. Many of you have asked me if I've forgiven Sarah, and I'm not ready to forgive her yet. I don't hate her anymore, but I'm not ready to forgive her completely just yet. I may do that someday, but for now, I'm focused on healing and moving on with my life. Thank you all for your support. I'm closing this chapter of my life now, but I'm looking forward to what lies ahead because I did what I felt was necessary to protect myself and my interests. I hope my story can serve as a cautionary tale about the importance of communication in relationships and the consequences of betrayal. This will be my final update. Thank you again, and I'm signing off for the last time. Your support and advice throughout this journey, including your comments and messages, have been a source of strength during some of my darkest moments.